I mean, that's cool. I've been watching you, or not watching you. That's weird. I saw, I saw on Discord already you've been playing Dark Souls 2 again.
Yeah, I have. Oh man, I lived on that game for Xbox 360, and I got the Steam version. And I don't know. It's one of those games where I can just pick it up and play it for half an hour, or just play it for an entire day. And I just genuinely enjoy wandering around it now. One of the keys, my studio, we literally just did this little internal community thing just to get to know each other better on the studio side. And we all had to rank our top 25 games. And I stuck Discord at the top and Minecraft at the top, and we were chatting about them. And I was like, this is exactly why, this is exactly kind of the main reason why I picked all these games, because I picked games that were all very easy. They're very low overhead, not the big, dramatic blockbuster games, but they're games you can literally pick up, open and play, for like 5 seconds. And it creates that awesome kind of ease of access, that pick up and play mechanic. So, and Dark Souls for me is perfect. I think it's brilliant how you can just open it on a little bit of the screen. And normally it looks terrible because we do all of our correspondence through Discord. So I'm like chatting with people and talking, and then there's this big banner underneath that says, "Oh, playing Dark Souls."
I get it. That's funny. It's funny that you're like, man, it's just comfortable. I can just get into it. And it's funny. I'm like, when I think about Dark Souls, I mean, most people would probably be like, that game is stressful. What are you talking about? That is not a relaxing game to most people. I remember when Elden Ring came out, I've been a huge Souls, like from Demon Souls. I played literally every single one of them. So like, I totally get it. That game, I freaking love it. It's funny too. I'm going to go on a tangent here. But like when Demon Souls first came out, I remember everyone had these wacky, weird strategies, and even all the way up into even Elden Ring, Dark Souls 3, they had these wacky, weird strategies where they like to like do magic, a little bit of sword play with the shield. And my one of my buddies was like, yeah, you got to make sure you have enough in this stat to make sure you can block this. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, just get the biggest weapon and whack things. What are you, insane? I'm like, what are you? This is Dark Souls. You're a lunatic. Just go in and start killing stuff. And he had this weird strategy, slowly walk through the levels. I'm like, dude, I play that game like a maniac. I was run the map and just start whacking the crap out of it. It was always my strategy, like when the first Souls or whichever version came out, whichever one predecessor, I would just be like, okay, just strength and endurance. Just get the biggest weapon and whack the thing as hard as you can. And usually things work out. I usually go no armor, so that way I can roll around a bunch, and then, hey, it works out. But anyway, it just makes me laugh because, yeah, most people would probably find that game not quite relaxing. But I love those games. I absolutely love those games. Elden Ring was obviously like masterpiece.
Absolutely.
It was phenomenal.
I remember with Demon Souls, the one that was on PS2, that was the first one that Miyazaki made for FromSoft. The bow was incredibly powerful in the original. So you could literally, they overpowered the bow.
Oh, that's right. I remember. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
One of the best things, and this is one of the things that everyone talks about with the Miyazaki games, is that he actually, Demon Souls was actually a massive failure. People don't know that. Yeah. And it's one of the key things that Miyazaki did absolutely perfectly. And the reasons why Dark Souls is so good is that he did a lot of user end testing. So with Demon Souls, he basically had to stick it on a disc. But the reason why Dark Souls did so well is it entered the era of live updates. So he was able to actually get a lot of player testing done. And that's why Dark Souls feels so much smoother. And that's why, it's much more satisfying. And Demon Souls if you go back to Demon Souls, it feels a little bit jankier because they're still kind of sorting things out. It's one of the things,
Was it a bug or a feature?
Yeah, but you get that with QA, where some stuff, like there was this great game I remember playing on N64, and Mario, the original the Mario 64 game, and there was this glitch, I remember, and the glitches back then used to take on their own mythos, because people obsess over, hang on, was this meant to happen, or was this, was this part of it or not? Yeah. I always like
That's
that.
funny, man. Yeah, I remember, yeah, I totally remember that too when Demon Souls came out. 'Cause I at the time, I mean, I was much younger, but, I worked at GameStop, and so I was there when it first came out,
Really? Wow.
and, uh, all these people would buy it, and then they would return it. They're like, "This game's too hard. This game doesn't work. It's not," or whatever. Like, they couldn't figure it out because obviously it was a bug or a feature. The game felt very, like, unfriendly as far as approachability, and so, like, I remember playing it and just I freaking loved it. I don't know if I'm, like, I'm a glutton for punishment, but, like, when things are, like, too hard, I'm like, "Wait a second. Is it too hard or am I not good enough? Because we're gonna figure this out, and I'll sit here and I will beat this thing up for hours on end." And it's so gratifying when you get past, like, the first, like, because yeah, in Demon Souls, it was literally just get through I mean, the formula is similar, but you get through the level and then you fight the boss at the end. You're like, what are you? The level was impossible. Now I have to fight a boss at the end of this. This is insanity. And I just remember you finally take down that one boss and you finally get to like upgrade a weapon or two, and you're like, okay, wait a second. Now I get it. Now I get it. This is okay. Now I'm feeling it. But I don't know if you I don't know if you played Monster Hunter. Did you play any Monster Hunter?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I played, I love the original. The one that I started playing really seriously was Try on the Wii, because it was one of the best games that you could play with a classic controller, back when the Wii was still a thing. It was one of the best not party games that was out there back in like 2008, I think is when it was launched. Yeah. Oh God, I love that. So good. And actually, those two things have in common. One of the things people don't realize about, it's interesting you bring up Monster Hunter and Dark Souls, because it's not just the level of challenge that makes it really good. It's actually the level of detail and QA that's gone into the character controller, which is what makes it so satisfying. A lot of the Souls likes that have come afterwards, a lot of the Metroidvanias as well that have come after, have basically been made make or break, depending on how intuitive and satisfying it is to use like the main character. Like one of the big things behind Hollow Knight, the reason why Hollow Knight did so well is because it has it's not just basically perfect. The physics is completely perfect and there's basically no bugs, but it's also introduction of the mechanics such as being able to bounce off enemies with the sword hits, being able to use like the different mobility stuff, and I've played some of the failures as well. I played this one game on Switch a couple of weeks back, and you always learn more from a design side. You always learn more from the bad games than you do from the good games. And there was this game where it was like, yeah, you can tell that love went into the art and the design, the story was great, but the character controller was just sticky. And literally I got hooked 20 minutes into it. And I was like, this is horrifying. I can't keep playing because it's no longer about skill, about beating the level, because, it's literally just luck that your controller would freeze up or something. It's really interesting seeing how genres, yeah, they're made or break by certain like design elements.
Yeah. Those games were really similar because, like you just said, like the first Demon Souls bombed and not a lot of people liked it. It was very niche. And then obviously they've grown to like the monolith that they are now. But like same thing with Monster Hunter, the very first Monster Hunter, people hated that game, like in America specifically, or like the Western, I think even in the Europe, they didn't really like it too much, but in Japan, it was huge. But they absolutely hated it. Like I remember in Game Informer, got like a 6.2 or something like that, which is like basically unplayable. It's garbage. Anything around the 5 is basically in Game Informer was like a trash game. And I
Yeah.
just remember people hating that game. And I played way too much of that game, like way too much of that game. I got the stupid modem you put on the back of the PlayStation just to play that game online. And so, but it's just funny because it's like you see these games, um, that essentially bombed their first outing, and then they're like, okay, but there's still something here, and so they kind of, like you said, they did this extensive QA to really refine it into a way that, like, man, it becomes, now Monster Hunter is like obviously massive all over the place. It's always been really, really popular in Japan, but it's massive everywhere now. And then obviously Demon Souls and Dark Souls and all those off to Elden Ring has become this absolute monster as well. But
It
yeah,
is.
I just thought it was funny. I saw you playing Dark Souls and I was like, oh,
Yeah, you notice a lot of the ones the games that have kind of got that enduring success tend to get most of they tend to get their big success when they've reached game number 2 or game number 3. Like Payday 2 is another great example where the original Payday was very niche, and then um, Resident Evil, I remember, kind of got really popular around 2 and 3. And then 1 became a cult hit after 2 and 3 had come out, and 4 especially, and it's just about that loop, and you get the biggest loop when you've launched an initial game. It's one of the things to tell a lot of indie designers, they look at their first, they launch a game and they expect it to do, even if they've done everything right, all the marketing and everything, and then they'll get a moderate to less moderate, especially in this climate, pretty less moderate than what they were expecting. And then you have to tell them, be like, actually, this is literally like the first step. Like all you've done is you've basically sent out a big QA form. And now you need to listen to what everyone's saying. And then you need to come back with the second game and take on all of that, all the player insights, figure out what caused the retention rates, what worked and what didn't work, and literally just keep crafting with each sequel and keep growing and, figure out exactly what it is the players are enjoying about the game and then make the game about that.
yeah. It's interesting too, because like I feel like a lot of developers or indie devs, that's ones that I've talked to, they think when you build, like, let's say you're building your first game, and then you get out there and it more or less flops, or I wouldn't even say flops. It does what it probably should do for your first game. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And, the next thing you build your time, basically, you don't need to spend as much time on the next project because you've already kind of built a lot of your tools. You've built your knowledge, where the general direction, you've kind of gone through the pain of all the failures that you had to go through. And so it's, development time is now, you can shrink your development time. So it's like you learn so much through getting out your first game that when you go on to build the next one, you're going to be better at it. And then the next one, you're going to be even better at it. And it's just like, you see that statistic that most indie devs, only put like one game out. It's like 80% or something. I forget the exact number. They only put like one game out, but it's like, man, if you just keep going, it's like, there's a saying or whatever, or I don't remember what it is, but like, there's basically this guy who owned this land, and he owned this land because he said that it had gold. And he sat there and he dug and dug and dug and dug and dug and never found any gold for years. And then finally he ends up selling the land, and then somebody digs for like a day and finds the gold. But it's like that guy that did all that work, you know what I mean? If you would have just kept going, you would have eventually found the gold. And it's like, you kind of have to have this attrition, this ability to kind of keep moving forward, because eventually, if you really want to be in it, man, you'll hit it, you'll get there. You just got to go through some pain a little bit.
It is. And it's about how your viewpoint as a developer evolves. This is why there's this big paradox about entry level requiring or at least one launched game. And everyone's like, this doesn't make any sense. If I'm entry level, then that means, I'm starting from the beginning. And actually it's like, actually you want, because you don't understand fully what it feels like to launch and create a game until you've been through the whole game cycle by yourself, and you've reached launch, you've seen how people react. One of the biggest things I remember, I don't know if you remember Steam Greenlight. I launched my first game. Yeah. And one of the biggest flaws they had with that is that you bought your way into Steam Greenlight, but then you had to get the community reviews, which meant probably after about 6 months of Greenlight being open, the entirety of people that were doing the peer reviews were very bitter, angry people who basically had their own games fail and they'd given up and started trolling other people. So I met like 5-6 people who went through Greenlight, and I remember when I first put my first game out back into 2013, and I got 5-6 comments in the first hour of it going live on Greenlight, and it was brutal. And it wasn't even about the game. It was literally like, you should kill yourself, give up, this kind of thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it gets nuts. And I remember I was hearing the same thing from other people who were posting. And there was one guy who was literally like, remember, the green light, literally, you know, just get through it. You are not getting actual feedback. You're literally getting this from people who have themselves failed. You know, I think that's why they move directly. They right now through Steamworks, they just do a technical review, you know, and then they allow the content to kind of work, you know, the actual subject matter, gets worked out, you know, basically just through a popular mandate, I think, after it's launched, you know, so they stopped trying to get peers because they realized that it was more of a competition, I think, than they realized.
Right. Right. And I think it's tough too, the balance, because I know a lot, like, you know what I mean? You put your game out on Steam and it feels very much like you're throwing it into the void. You're like, let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Because it's like, obviously there's so many moving parts, especially with like your Steam page and your trailer, actual game, a demo, next fest, all these different moving parts to try and gain visibility on Steam. And then on top of it, you're also, you know, competing with, you know, all the slop essentially that people are just putting out there, or like asset flips or whatever you want to call it. And it's just like, man, it's tough. And that's why I think a lot of indies are starting to realize is like, uh, you know, kind of more or less the essence of this whole show essentially is like, you have to basically drive traffic to your page. Like,
Mm.
you cannot just rely on Steam to promote your product essentially. You have to do so much work to get people to actually notice you, which is more or less what I found out, and why, like I said, I started the show for, you know, selfishly for myself, but also also because I mean, I would be on, you know, the Reddit, the indie dev Reddit or whatever, and I'd see a lot of really, really cool projects. Likewise, I think Minimart looks interesting, and obviously what you're doing with, how do you say it? It's Astrarium?
Astrarium, yeah.
Astrarium, okay. And what you're doing with Astrarium is really interesting. So I'm like, yeah, man, there's people out there that are also trying to fight this, or trying to battle against this attention machine. And I think, you know, there's some cool projects out there that need some attention to it, because I think Steam's not doing a good enough job at actually shedding light on some of these actually cool projects. And so, yeah, that's kind of the essence of why I started this whole thing. Um,
It's one of the
but
big
yeah,
things. Yeah. It's one of the big things about indie is it's the games industry as a whole, and before this as well, is that no one shares notes. You know, while you will you'll get people that will brag about their success, or people that will be very, very bitter about this and that. You've really got to do a lot of combing. And one of the key things you've got to be as an indie developer is, you know, you have to wear all the hats in development, but you also have to wear all the hats in the marketing. And that's where a lot of people begin to fall short. Like I said this before on one of my pitch decks where I was talking about publishing support, where it's like, what hidden gem is actually a really sad term for someone who created an amazing game, but then was then horribly marketed. And you really need both sides of the brain when it comes to that. Marketing and development are almost two completely different animals. I've seen some very successful startups who have done things like they have actually live updated public betas on itch, so that they're actually grabbing player feedback and they're doing public QA literally from the beginning, where they're literally loading up moving cubes, and then they're building up the community that way. And I've seen some people who literally just bury their heads. They're fantastic, phenomenal programmers who just bury their heads down and they just focus on what they're good at, which is creating something that's really amazing and really incredible. Really good success story in that, which is one of the very few, is the guys who made Factorio. You know, they did almost no marketing. Factorio is one of the game that came out on Steam in about 10 years ago now. And it was basically made by, I think it was one guy, who literally just built something and then organically marketed it over a huge volume of time. If you go back a little bit further, another example was, the Dwarven Kingdom game, you know, that's basically been in development for like 25 years. And it's still got little updates coming out, and it's slowly growing a very strong community. Sorry?
I wasn't sure. It sounds like Star Citizen.
Yeah. Oh my god.
The
Oh
only
my god.
difference
Like
is the only difference is
I went
Star
thinking
Citizens
something.
raised $800 million.
Oh man, Star Citizen.
Raised with big quotation marks.
I always think about No Man's Sky in that kind of scenario. You know, where Bungie basically raised a huge amount. Not Bungie, sorry, it's Hello Games, who had this runaway valuation on their company, made a bunch of promises, and then even though it was a very good game, when it came out, everyone was just like, "Is this it?" You know. I think they turned it around and they've done some really great, and it's grown kind of into so that they've you know kept their promises over the scale. But everyone was basically expecting it to be instantly brilliant, and it's one of those things where marketing and the development were just two different animals, and they were just weren't gelling properly.
Man. Yeah. You know what sucks is like I have Star Citizen. I've spent probably more than I should have paid on that game as far as buying ships and stupid stuff like that. And it sucks because the game's actually what you can play is pretty fun. Like what they have out there, what you can actually consume is pretty good. But you're like at this point, you kind of go, but we should have something by now. Like this is insane. $800 million later, like what we have to play with. Come on, guys. Like this is nuts. This is insane. But like it sucks because I'm like when I think about like obviously it's like a big tease because when you get in there and you play a little bit of the game, you kind of go, oh my god, I see where they're going with this. But what? How long has it been? It was like what 2010, 2011. When did they start making this thing?
I think it was
I
like
don't even remember.
2003.
Oh shit. So it's been way too long. Way too long, way too much money. And God, it just sucks because I think what the tease of stuff that you can play with is pretty cool. I just don't know if they're ever gonna get there. I think they're eventually I think just gonna get sued into oblivion, to be honest with you.
Scope issues are always going to be a thing, especially when you're like starting out, because you realize you can't jump into creating, you know, a giant AAA level open world survival multiplayer crafting game, you know, when you're literally just getting started. And it's just because I don't think people realize the amount of work that goes into the back end of development, especially like you said, with the first game, you're never going to hit the nail on the head perfectly unless you're very, very lucky or very, very talented. But you're also spending 80% of your time building up those systems, which you will refine in the sequel. But because you're not spending so much time literally just writing everything out, one of the things we got with Mini Merchant, some of the feedback that we've already got is that some of the stuff I know it was going to be popular, like the shop system, works really, really well, but people had basically some concerns that literally, I look back at what I was programming and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed that. And it's because I'm so in the weeds because I'm having to build the whole thing from scratch that it just doesn't occur to me to do A, B, and C, you know. And it's this really interesting bit that most developers go, which is, do I do this as a DLC? Do I do this as a free update? What is it? You know, how big does an update need to be before I go, screw it, I need to build an entirely new game around this. I need to build a sequel. You know, I've got stuff that I want to do. I've got some really exciting stuff I want to do for Mini Merchant too. But for right now, I'm just all about making sure that I've basically just encapsulated Mini Merchant into just like the perfect little casual RPG experience that does exactly what I wanted to do. Just fight monsters, beat dungeons, sell loot. You know, they didn't need to be any more complicated than that, I don't think.
Yeah. That's a perfect game loop anyway. I mean, that's what you, I mean, just the what's the word? It's not my, gosh, I can't think of the word.
Fantasy trope.
I like, yeah. Now, as far as your involvement with Mini Merchant, because obviously you have Astrarium Games, sorry,
Sure.
bear with me, Astrarium Games, and now, so what was your this is your game, or you designed it, or you had a team? Like, how did the development process look as far as when making Mini Merchant?
So the original concept for Mini Merchant is because I wanted to create something that was very simple. I've been a developer for about 10 years now. I'm a designer and a programmer. So I built the backend systems. I created the whole thing in Unity. I did the design docs, and I did a little bit of the pixel art. But then we brought in some pixel artists from Astrarium to run it. Astrarium's, the way it's structured is a little bit unique in the, what we tend to do is that rather than us basically being like one city, you know, a good kind of metaphor to use is like, we're kind of like the Gallic tribes, you know, lots and lots of little villages all around that kind of act as their own little, setups with their own, you know, heads and their own kind of functioning economies within these teams. And then we all just basically come together and collaborate closely. So even though, you know, we reached about 150 volunteers recently, we've brought on we're bringing on another 30 volunteers in the next month. So we'll be reaching 200, but it still has an indie vibe where it's lots and lots and lots of small teams of about 15 to 20 people. So Mini Merchant was essentially a blueprint. So I created it with a studio in mind so that I could run ahead, build something, sell it. Didn't matter if it did well or not. What Mini Merchant's goal was to basically provide a playbook for all the other projects that were worked on at the moment, so that people weren't just kind of running blind. You know, they could go, oh, you know, we've reached the end of the pre-production we're doing. What is it that we should do next? And I can come in and say, well, look what we did on Mini Merchant. Once we finished doing all of the additional prep work and we started doing some of the testing, the first thing we did was set up a QA department. And then we started showing it to some of the other people in the studio. So, you know, seems like it's a good idea for you to do that next. Kind of like how it works with development, where, you know, you need to have gone around the merry-go-round a few times, and you need to have known exactly how to refine your own development pipeline. That's essentially what Mini Merchant was. You know, we do it the first time round, we make the mistakes the first time round, so that when we've got other projects in the pipeline, because we've got about 7 other projects that are in development at the moment by different teams, and all of them are basically using Mini Merchant's development as a blueprint. And we're saying, you know, and we're doing it right now with the way that we've sold it. You know, I put it out in February. But we essentially use different sales tactics. We use the social media marketing volunteers. We'll just use it as an object to sell. So they'll try out different posts on the social media. They'll see, you know, they'll create different banners and graphics, and some of them have failed miserably. Some of them have actually given us little upticks, and it's just giving us all that precious information that we need to just basically keep refining our own model of how we put out indie games.
That's interesting. So how does like ownership of the games work, and how does like, because obviously the goal is eventually to put these mini merchants on Steam so you can spend $5.99 on the game. So how does that work with like a volunteer, quote unquote, like a volunteer-esque team, and ownership of the titles and the games, and obviously like profit splits, or how does that whole economic system work out with the teams?
So we have a profit sharing system. Essentially, putting it super simply, is that we use a profit sharing system. We've got 3 basic rules that we've got with the development. The first one is that we're completely transparent with all the funding, which is one thing I've noticed with a lot of studios don't tend to do, which I always think is interesting. Like, where's the money coming from? No one shares their books and says, you know, for the amount of money you're bringing in, where's that money going? Because it's just it feels like just another piece of educational material for anyone who's interested in setting up a studio and wants to know how the money works. You know, where's the best place to spend your money? So we're completely public with all the cash that we make. So we show how it works. We have a non-binding agreement with the volunteers. So we essentially tell them that when you work on a game, we have a record system where we keep track of who's worked on what and when, so that when we launch a game, we can basically look back at the hundreds of volunteers, you know, who have come and gone, have a look at, you know, how how much time they've spent, how impactful their contributions have been. But normally we'll just do kind of an even split. So everyone in the credits gets a piece, and then that information is shared with everyone, just in the spirit of just complete transparency, just to try and maintain that trust. Because with Astrarium, we always wanted to make sure that volunteers came in because they wanted to be here. So, we make sure that, it's not a full-time job. They literally spend 2 evenings a week max. And we enforce a work-life balance. So if we notice that someone's working a bit too much, we'll give them a poke and be like, you should go out and get a life. Go out and have a look at some other jobs, literally treat this like it is a part-time club. It's like an after-school club where you just get professional credit on your CV.
Got it. And so I'm just curious, like, as far as like me being like let's just pretend, and we don't have to pretend that far because I am a first-time indie dev. But let's say I'm a first-time, like, want to be getting into the industry, and I come across Astrarium, and I'm like, oh, this is something interesting. Let's say I do coding. Let's just say I'm a coder. I know C# or something, and so like I can come into your Discord and get in touch with somebody that's making a project and say, hey, I'd like to contribute. I'd like to be a volunteer. I'd like to help in some way. What does that type of like onboarding process look like for somebody?
So we're actually right in the middle of doing an update. I think by the time this comes out, we'll have completely transitioned to the new system. So what we tend to do, I'll just talk about the new system. What we've got is on our website, we have basically a job board. So a volunteer job board with all the available projects that currently require help. For a lot of the projects we do, the roles are a little bit crowd developed. So like for what would normally take a full-time 3D modeler, one 3D modeler would be needed full-time. We need like 10 3D modeling volunteers. So we always have, tens of opportunities for anyone who's looking. Essentially, when you get in touch, we have a team of community managers who have all been very, very helpful already, who just reach out and get in touch. And we just have a casual chat with a volunteer over Discord or over email or over LinkedIn. And we just say, what is it you're looking for? What's your goals? What is it that you want to get out of this? Rather than us saying, here's our expectations. We say, what do you want? What is it that you're planning on doing? And we've literally I've had someone in the past who was literally like, oh, I'm about to graduate uni and I just need a credit. He was like, I've got maybe 6 months. And I'm like, well, you're doing design. I would, in my own experience, because I've run 2 studios in the past. When I've hired people, I think that people want to see ABC. So what I can help you do is, come and volunteer on this project as a designer. Remember to stick on your professional credit. Remember to update your LinkedIn. Tell people that you're working here. And then by the time you graduate, we'll give you a professional credit. So you literally walk out of uni, with already beaten that paradox of entry level, but I need a professional credit, but I need the job to get professional credit. No, we've already kind of tailor-made an experience for you so that you can come out and basically start applying for the job. So when they say, what have you worked on in the past? You can just send them my details and, we'll write a glowing review for you and just explain what it is that you've done. So,
yeah, so it's an expedited way of being able to get that credit to get into like, if someone's looking to be like, I want to work for Ubisoft, let's just say, this is a direction they can go. If they're like, you need to have at least one launched game, and you're like, okay, cool, I did some work on this game, and basically you're going to say, cool, we got the resume and I'll give you the credit and let you basically get that leg up into that that AAA studio, being a junior designer or whatever the heck they're trying to be.
We've
in
got
that
people
particular,
that do, we've got people that do QA, not just the classics of design, programming, and art, but we've had people that specialize in QA. We had someone who was left a AAA studio and essentially had this super niche qualification where he was a lighting artist for Unreal based in caves. That was like his experience, specifically lighting in caves. And I'm like, okay, all right. So if you're 100% sure you want to keep doing just lighting, you could just move into doing, the VFX as general. And he's like, no, I like lighting. Born and bred AAA.
I like lighting and I like caves.
Yeah. So what we did is I literally, we partnered him with a designer who was like, and a 3D modeler who was looking to expand his portfolio. They didn't even make a game. They just got together, the three of them, on our, within our Discord, and they just made this lighting sequence, and they just used it on all three of their portfolio.
Well, perfect. They should make a spelunking game.
I mean, yeah, there it is. We have a question that we normally ask people when they come on, which is, do you have your own idea? Are you looking to come on and build your own skill, or are you looking to build your own game? And we've had two people who have essentially we've been with us for 6 months and 3 months. And we've watched both of them go from, oh, I kind of want to have an idea of what to do this and that. And, to they're essentially running their own teams of about 20 people. And whenever they're confused, we have a team of directors with a lot of experience. We have project leads with a lot of experience. And these two are basically learning as they go. So, they had an idea. We were able to provide them with the infrastructure. Whenever they got confused and got overwhelmed about doing A, B, and C, then we'd say, you know what? This is the point you're at right now. I think it's time for you to do this, this, and this. And it just builds confidence as well. And then at the end of it, we basically say, we're building up this publishing team at the moment, as well as growing experience for development volunteers. We've also got a big team of social media and marketing volunteers who are also growing their chops, and they're learning how to do A, B, and C. And we're building this engine of publishing, which is, essentially we're giving it away for free, and we're asking for just a rough 10% on spec, so that we're able to kind of provide this easy, you need you've done the development, but you're not exactly a marketing head, then, get in touch with us. We'll have a chat about your game. And 90% of the time we'll say, yeah, we think we can do A, B, and C for this. And we'll just take a small percentage, and then we'll just give you that little bit of an extra boost.
Actually seems relatively low percentage wise, essentially becoming their publisher more or less,
Yeah.
So I mean, I've heard publishers taking at least 30% or more, depending on what they need. So
this is actually a key piece of information that, again, is just something that's just not available for people. But what it normally is it's truncated between, if a publisher comes in and funds your game, they'll take anything from 70 to 90%. If they come in and they just want key roles, so they want to represent your game in a certain capacity, handle most of the work post game, then it will be 30 to 50%. And I've known some publishers who have been very laissez-faire and basically said, use us to publish your game, reference us, we'll do some marketing for you, and we'll take 15%. So basically what we're doing is we're saying, we've got this machine that's running. And one of the key success quotas that we use for Astrarium is that we're looking to basically do rapid fire releases. Rather than doing the really big giant projects, we are planning on putting out an indie game every 3 months, so that we're constantly in people's minds. And every time we launch a game, we get a little bit more press. That actually makes it easier for us to launch games more successfully in the future. So it becomes a self-perpetuating thing, because there are so many people out there looking to create indie games and looking to get into the games industry. Like one of the key things that a lot of people take for granted in the industry is that everybody wants to be there. It's not like running, like a grocery store or something where you've got to convince people to come in and start stacking the shelves. Everybody is here because they're passionate and they want to be here. So you can utilize that in order to, partner people together, give them exactly what they want, give them the environment and the support they need to basically just grow themselves and build the projects they like.
Yeah, it's interesting. I find it interesting, because I feel like a lot of indie devs are not exactly sure where to start, or they want to get into the industry or something like that. And maybe they feel like they don't quite have the education, or they don't feel like they maybe need to feel like they need to go through 4 years of college and all these different loops and bounds and jumps just to feel like they need to get into the industry. And it's like, you have to, I feel like most people that get into this are just kind of I just want to make it and figure it out from there. I have no games background, but I'm like, whatever, I'll figure it out, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that you can kind of give people a little bit of a platform to be able to get themselves, get their feet wet. Hey, I want to try to work on this little piece of it, develop my skill a little bit, and then get a little bit of credit, and then move on to a next project pretty quickly. And so now you say you have about seven games right now in the pipeline.
Yep.
Wow. So when's the next one come out?
So we've got a re-release of Mini Merchant, which is coming in the next couple of months. By the time this comes out, it should have been launched in June. We're launching that on Nintendo Switch over the summer, which I'm very excited about because I built Mini Merchant in mind for touch-based mechanics. So I think it's going to feel really rewarding, which I'm super excited about. We are pitching 2 different publishers at the moment for 2 of our projects. And we're also been contracted by a Japanese studio to do the design and programming on their game. And once we've reached the prototype stage, we're partnering with them to actually do the fundraising. So we'll be taking part of the development contract and helping them build the game. And they have a lot of other games in their portfolio that are looking to build. So essentially we're being very ambitious, and that we think we're probably going to get 2 more games out by the end of this year, we think. And we have one very big, very ambitious project, which has about 50 volunteers on it at the moment, which has been in pre-development for about a year now. And we will be ready to release and announce it and start releasing some artwork and start kind of showing people, some of the artwork is absolutely phenomenal. We've got a team of some really amazing people on it. So, we're still in this stage of aggressively growing ourselves. And, with one of the big things at the moment, the environment of the games industry is that a lot of the old infrastructure is kind of starting to break apart. And already you can start seeing some of the new infrastructures that are kind of growing to take their place. We're really good. We partnered with a really fantastic indie partnership run by Cave Bear Games, by Ayla Derrick, if you've heard of her. And I always point everyone towards her because she's brilliant. She's basically doing what we're doing, but a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And she got us started. And
she's going to be on the show at the end of the end of this month or something like that, I think.
Oh, you talked to her? Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. So I'm really happy. I'm really kind of happy to be part of that partnership because everyone's sharing notes there too. And you can really see these new teams and these new partnerships and these new ecosystems kind of developing and growing into the space that a lot of the big AAAs are leaving behind.
Yeah. No, and I think what happened is with these AAAs, I mean, they just, we're probably very similar, close in age, and we basically grew up with games. Like, our life grew with games. And so like we saw how the industry evolved, and what happened is like a small handful of big publishers basically just started eating every other developer. Like they were just trying to cannibalize every single developer they could get their hands on. And eventually it basically got to a point where it was just like, okay, now all the games come from like one of 5 publishers, compared to before where it was kind of like, it was very decentralized. It was kind of like all over the place. And I think what's happened is it's just gone completely unsustainable. These games, they're basically, the publishers got too much control. They're trying to push what they want exactly on these developers, and there's left no creativity to kind of find out if if they can make something interesting. And so now we have what is, I guess, the fallout of that. No pun intended but we have the fallout, which is basically them laying off all of these people and sending them back out into the wild and getting rid of studios and just shutting things down. I know I've just read an article about how AAA was I forget exactly which studio, but they were spending like $3 million a month or whatever, or 3 million. I don't remember the exact time frame or whatever, but they were spending a lot of money, in the millions, for marketing. And they found out that it didn't move the needle at all because of the way that social media and the way that people find games now is fundamentally different. like compared to before where, you know, you have to spend, you get ad spend in IGN or, you know, a magazine, or put ad spend in, you know, any website or whatever. But now it's like people don't go to that stuff anymore to get stuff. What they really do, in my opinion, is they find a content creator, someone they trust, someone they've been watching, and they wait for them to play a game that they now can see oh, they're recommending, they play that game. Okay, that looks interesting. Now I'll go play it. Um, I kind of went off on a tangent, but I just think I think you're right as far as the old infrastructure is major, like in a huge crumbling state because they just got way too big. These monoliths got huge and they're just unloading it all. But that's the cool thing about games is that people are always going to want to play games and people
Mm.
are always going to want to make games, you know? And so, and obviously Steam, and there's so many platforms out there to be an indie developer, and indie games, indie developers turn into bigger double A developers, into triple A developers. Like it's, you know, you can grow into whatever you want to be. So anyway,
I've got so much to talk about this. I know we're on 45 minutes now, but I'll do a little rant because I spent a long time thinking about this. One of the big things I remember a couple of years ago, I went through a VC incubator when I was growing a previous studio. And one thing that the people outside of games could not wrap their head around was the fact that I was telling people that gaming is basically, is one of the most unique industries that's out there, because it is this almost 50-50 split between creative and tech. So when a lot of people view gaming, they look at the computer, computer work that needs to go into it. They look at, programming, they look at how digital art works. They look at the fact that a lot of games are launched digitally, and then they take gaming and they slot it next to technology and apps on the shelf. And one of the big things, that led to, the fact that the AAA is crumbling at the moment, is the investors saw gaming as tech, and they brought in people from tech to run the studios, which is why they act in a certain way. One of the things you just mentioned there, which was, this is a big thing that happened with Microsoft in the 2016, 2018. This is something that Tencent is doing right now out of China, is it's an actual tech strategy. It's a strategy that's used in tech since the 90s, which is that if you have a competitor, you don't waste resources trying to bring them down. What you do is you collaborate by absorbing. So this is one of the things that made Facebook so massive back in 2005, is that they were buying their competitors. They bought Snapchat and they bought Instagram. So this is exactly what the tech people who then just moved into Microsoft Studios or Epic Games or EA, this is exactly what was in their playbook. So whenever they saw an indie studio that did well, that was doing something similar to what they were doing, they didn't see it as a creative issue, something that, these guys had their own voice that was different to what Microsoft might have had. They followed the playbook and they bought the studio, and they offered them a large amount of money. And it wasn't about pricing the studio and saying, you guys have made maybe 20, 30 grand in the last 6 months, and you've spent maybe $500,000 on this. So you're probably worth, your price point is probably about 2 million. No, it actually looks better in the papers if we buy it for 100 million, because that not only makes it look like a good purchase, because clearly these guys are really valuable. So, but it's also a price that these guys absolutely not turn down. Unless you are so committed to your own vision, you're not going to turn down 100 million for something that's worth 2. And that elevates the price and it creates a bubble. And that is a big problem that happens. The pandemic was basically the clincher, like it was for a lot of stuff. So in the pandemic, gaming grew by about 60% because understandably everybody's at home. And this is one of the things where people are calling the 2023 to 2020, hopefully to 2025. Hopefully it won't go any further. Although I have heard Microsoft is laying off another 7,000 people. Is that it's not actually a crash. It's what's called a market contraction. It's because the market was not at its actual value. It has been elevated and turned into a bubble because of the pandemic. And of course, a lot of these AAA studios, because they came from tech, saw increased demand, pump extra money to meet that demand. Because of course, if it goes badly, you can still take your profit and then pump it into something else. But gaming doesn't work that way, because gaming's about those long-term relationships that you have with the gamers. And of course, if you shatter that trust, which is what they've done now, then people stop playing those games. And this is what caused indie revolution, because gaming relies on not just people seeing the game as an artistic expression, not an app not like some app like Waze or Uber. As long as it works, it's a success. Gaming is totally different. It's like a piece of artwork, and its value is completely subjective, and it's based on growing relationships and establishing trust and that familiarity, that parasocial relationship that you have with a studio, with an IP, and with a genre in general. So once that trust is broken, then that's something that's very, very difficult to bring back. And this is a big thing that AAA is struggling at the moment, is that they've basically broken that trust, and you can't spend money to reestablish trust, which is why AAA has basically gone, oh, hang on, now suddenly there's this gap, and indie is coming in to fill it, because people are not just much more cynical now, because the generations that are in their 20s and 30s now have grown up with adverts. So they are much less trusting than people like our generation, who grew up when the internet was growing up. And when it was moving from, not Ethernet, what was it called? Alternet, the original one. When the first ads were coming out and they were big and splashy and bright, because everyone using the internet was 15. And now most of the gamer demographics, if you follow Newzoo or Statista, who are managing, looking at what the current global gamer demographic looks like, all the gamers are in their mid 30s to mid 50s. Basically, it's like 60% of the market, which is why casual gaming has overtaken console gaming, because adults don't have time to sit down and spend an afternoon at a console. They play games on their phone for 5 minutes in between everything else they do. So long run over, essentially what they've done is they've set up this paradigm shift, and people are much happier to establish trust with an indie studio that is being honest and transparent and open, and is treating its games like an artistic expression close to a film or a book, than it is to just another piece of tech like an app.
Yeah.
And that's why the indie revolution now is such a big thing.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. I think you're spot on with that. Because obviously, like you just said, like we grew up with this all, and it sucks too, because we grew up with a lot of these developers and publishers, like, most recently, I think of Blizzard. Like Blizzard was the crown jewel for so long, as far as when it came to development. They were, the amount of hours I put into StarCraft 2, I don't even want to talk about when I was a kid.
Diablo 2.
And so it's like
from the first LAN multiplayer.
Yeah. And so like battle.net and all that stuff. And so like when I think of like, some of the stuff I grew up with as far as with publishers and developers, there was a good trust there, and they had goodwill. And then obviously at once, everyone said it, like once they got sold to Activision, the entire Blizzard like fan base was like, uh-oh. Like all of us were like, oh no, wait a second. And then they tried to reassure, no, we just got a bigger bank account. It's like, no, you didn't.
They didn't.
You sold your soul. It's over. Blizzard is dead. That was the moment that all of us were like, Blizzard's dead. Blizzard has died. And it sucks because like, my favorite thing about Blizzard is they are unmatched when it comes to like cinematics. Like their cinematics to me were so freaking good. And they had such a way of telling story. It's phenomenal. But I think like, I love the fact that you're calling it the indie revolution, because it's so true. And so you just see so many people just going into this world because they still want to make games. A lot of these people that are getting laid off, they're like, well, I still want to make games. And there's so much ability. There's so many ways to get your game out there now. Like obviously with Steam and even the Epic Store, you can still, you can put your game out on the Epic Store. You can put your game on itch. You can put your game wherever you want to really put your game. I mean, it's just a download link at that point. And it's just like, these people they got to go somewhere, and they're not going to stop making games, and it's just, I guess you're 100% right on that. You're right on the head, right on the nail.
Yeah. It's about the trust there. And it's something that happens naturally with any company as it gets bigger, is you get more detached from your market. So, with an indie game, with an indie studio, if someone comments on an indie game and you get a response, 90% of the time it's going to be one of the developers that worked on it. But in order for just basic corporate structure to work on a level where you've got 500 to 1,000 employees, it's just going to be truncated and it's going to be transferred. So the developers and the players will probably never meet. So, you know, it relies on a network of other teams and other outreach until stuff gets watered down. It's why a lot of indies tend to make stuff that they, you know, not just a risk thing, you know, not just being able to take risks because they don't have as big an overhead, but also they are able to respond and stay keyed in to the feedback that they're getting on their games, and they're able to constantly craft and, you know, update. This is why a lot of the really successful games that you see on Steam, especially some of the stuff that comes from third parties, they have so much player engagement. And you'll see, you know, they're not just asking questions and opening up forums and saying, you know, tell us what you think, give us your feedback, but you've also got this big long list of regular updates that have come through, you know, where they've listened and they've made changes and they've updated.
Yeah, for sure. I've said before, like, when it comes to like indie development too, like, before when you would spend money on a AAA, it feels like you're just throwing money into this, like this monolith. Like by the time it actually feels like it actually affects the people that, you know, got their hands dirty on the game and actually built it. It's like, it's got passed through marketing, it's passed through administration, it's passed through the publisher, it's passed through all these different hands before it finally gets to the people that really cared about the project that they were making. And so you're right, there's this massive detach where compared to indie, it's like when I spend $7, when I spend $6 on Mini Merchant, that's going right to you guys. Like I'm talking to the person who literally is making the game or made the game. So it's like the connection level is like so close when it comes to indies. It's like anytime you spend money on indie development, it's going straight to the developer, outside of obviously giving, you know, Steam a pound of your flesh. But after that,
It is. And that's why it's circling all the way back to stuff we were talking about before. This is why, you know, indies that do well are the ones that prioritize player engagement. And as I said, I'm following a couple of the games I'm following at the moment, which I really like, are regularly updating. Not only they're on the Discord community and the developers are there, you know, they're basically they're pounding the pavement, and they are chatting with people, and they're making time to go and talk to everyone that's in their Discords. And they're running these regular QAs, you know, they're posting regular stuff. Itch is phenomenal for this. Like I've seen so many games that have been basically gone through iteration on Itch until they reach the point where they then move over to Steam for to launch a polished product. And then all the Itch players follow. Which is something really interesting you wouldn't think would happen, because you'd think all the Itch people would stay on Itch. And Itch, even though Itch does sell a lot of, you know, fully marketed games, a lot of people tend, like me personally, I go to Itch if I want something free, you know, if I want to play something that's kind of free, but it's not, you know, Marvel Guardians free, where it's like play, you know, info mill. It's because you're seeing the stuff that's basically the diamond in the rough, and I can identify, maybe this is just me because of the situation I'm in, but I'm picking out and I'm identifying the developers where I'm like, yeah, this guy's going to be successful. Like he's basically gotten started, but he's already doing everything right. And you can tell that the game's going to be a big success. And it's like, actually, I would quite like to meet this guy on his way up. You know, and let's see, you know, how he's doing. It's like running into a singer that you really like. And I'm noticing, you know, they suddenly get signed to a decent label, you know, because you're like, they were talented enough for that to happen.
I have the same feeling. That's why I started this show.
Yeah, you get to think of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that's a cool project. I wonder how he made that. Oh, well, and it's interesting too. You wouldn't believe, I mean, this is a little bit of a digression, but this was so random. This is a little bit of my superpower. I have such ignorance as far as when it comes to I guess people in the industry. My knowledge of the actual inner workings of the industry is very minimal, because I just got started doing this thing. But anyways, when I was initially, to get people on the show, I was just messaging people on Reddit, a theatrical project or something like that. Like, hey, I have this show that nobody's watched, but you want to be on my show? And so basically I ended up finding my way across, I actually have already filmed the episode, but the original artist of Angry Birds. has been on the show. And I didn't even know when I was talking to him, because he was just like, because obviously we did that 15-minute call. And I was like, talking to him, I was like, yeah, cool. Your game looks awesome. It's really rad. Like, this is awesome. And he was like, yeah, you might know some of my other work. I did the original art to Angry Birds and all that stuff. I was like, oh shit. And so it's funny how small, or how easily, not easily is not the right word, but like, I mean, it's amazing who you can get in contact with just bopping around and talking to people. Like, and I was like shocked. And I've had a couple other people too that are kind of interesting that'll be on the show later. So it's just it's an interesting thing how you would think some of these people are untouchable, and it's really not like that. And it's very interesting, and they're very like humble and interested in to want to talk. They want to talk to you too, and just talk about their game and talk about their experience and stuff like that. But I forgot how we got here, but I just thought it was funny.
I do have a fun one actually. When I was, I live in England at the moment, but I cut my teeth in Dundee in Scotland, which is really well known for being one of the game design capitals of Europe. And they've got Abertay University, which has the best, like literally the best games design development course, I think, in pretty much the world at this point. And I had a massive opportunity to get mentored by a lot of different people. And one of the people I stayed in touch with was an artist for deep work for a studio called DMA Design in the 90s. And they're famous because they made the first Grand Theft Auto. Yeah. So before some members of DMA Design.
I'm talking about PS1 or Grand Theft Auto 1, like the top down, PlayStation 1 version.
Yeah. And he did the artwork for the first Grand Theft Auto, and it was just nuts.
Oh, crazy!
Because he's such a down to earth guy, and he runs a small little indie studio now in his spare time. He's semi-retired, and yeah, I just met him, and he did some artwork for one of the games I was making at the time, and I basically just got a chat with him, and I was like, oh, his art is surprisingly good. And then we ended up chatting, and he shared a bunch of stories, and they was like, oh, DMA Design, they sound familiar, and it was like, yeah, it's because Grand Theft Auto, Lemmings, And it's just nuts. And the thing is it's exactly come back to this thing where game design has one big strength for the games industry is that everyone wants to be here, and everyone is passionate, and it can be very, very friendly. And for a lot of people, you can literally just go and chat. And Dundee, I think, still does. I remember there was a guy, Colin McDonald, who did this series of, I hope he's still doing them, did this series of talks where there's got to be like 30 studios in Dundee, which is surprising because Dundee is kind of small. And it's packed with Abertay alums and the big studios. And Rockstar recently went home, and they bought a studio, PlayFab, I think, Playbase, and they converted it into Rockstar Dundee. So you've got Rockstar there, you've got oh my God, Congregate is there. You've got Tag Games. I had an office in the same building with, I was just over the street from Tag Games. There's a little district which has a ton of studios in that. And it was just it was an incredible place to be. And you go to these meetings. And when I was in my early 20s and I was just getting started doing level design for a couple of projects, I just went along because they had free beer. And then you just end up running into people, running into people that have got hundreds of millions of pounds, and they trace their roots back to games that are just so embedded in the zeitgeist at this point. And it's that thing. It's just, you just reach out and you just say hi, and you just poke people, and you'd be surprised how many people will just turn around and be like, hey,
hey, what's up?
Yeah. What's up? How's it going? What are you working on?
I was talking to somebody else too about that. Yeah, he went to GDC for like the first time, and he was just like, he went across the street to wherever it was being held or something like that in this I think it was at a hotel, but anyway, in the like courtyard or whatever, he saw like what's his name? Crap, I'm not gonna remember his name. He made a Fable. What's his name? Peter or something.
Oh my God,
I think so.
Yeah.
But it was like him and like 4 other like high level people just sitting in the courtyard doing nothing, and he was able to just walk up to him and talk to him, and they were just like totally just hanging out. And it's just interesting because it's like, obviously like gamers in the world and people in this industry look at them celebrity-esque, and they're like, holy crap, these people are just like chilling. But it's wild because it's like, obviously these games are massive, huge, like even when you think about movies, but it doesn't, the man behind or the person behind the game sometimes is just a normal dude. They're just like hanging out. They're not this huge celebrity. But I just think it's interesting. But
I do remember the
we've
guy.
gone off on a tangent.
Yeah, I do. I remember that before we go back. I do remember the guy. It's Peter Molyneux, and
That's what it was.
he's got a studio in Guildford now in south of England. And I remember
Oh
because
wow.
I worked a studio a couple of years ago. I worked on a contract in Guildford, and yeah, they're just over the road. Like you can literally
Yeah.
see them like walking around.
Yeah. That's funny. That's funny, man. So so what's the ultimate goal with Astrarium? Are we trying to be like what's our trajectory path as far as our North Star with Astrarium?
So this is one thing I had to work out. I think it's what a lot of people need to work out if they're planning on growing something beyond just, a single game studio, which is you've got to kind of sort out what's called a company vision. So you've got to put it down. You've got to be able to state to another person in a couple of sentences, not just what your studio does, but what it is your studio is hopes to do. So, your vision statement. And for us, we were built around the fact that we wanted to provide opportunities. So I think without patting myself on the back, I think I've been very lucky and I've had basically an uninterrupted career. So I've been working in the industry for about 10 years. Before that, I was a playwright. Before that, I was an author. So I've been in the creative world for a really long time. So I've been able to kind of go out and make a lot of connections and partnerships. So I want to take Astrarium to the point where we're reaching AA status. I'd like to be able to reach kind of the Team 17 level of notoriety. I think I'll take a few decades, but something I would love to do. But always keeping that statement in place that we're essentially just trying to stay as open door studio as possible and just invite as many people in, just keep creating opportunities and keep being able to essentially do what's really special about the industry, what makes the games industry have that heart, which is that you can just, if you want to get started, not only are you going to meet a bunch of people that will be super passionate about helping you, but they'll bring you into the fold. They'll give you the advice that you need. And it's one of the reasons why, I think it's one of the reasons why people like AAA, people like indie, and why people feel like AAA has just moved so far towards tech that it's become impersonal. And it's, like you said, it's like feeding a monolith. It's like feeding this big gray looming, thing that deliberately separates itself, when indie is just designed around being personable. And the industry itself gaming is not tech. Gaming involves tech, but gaming is creative. So, and part of that is the collaboration of the community behind it. So what I would love is for Astrarium to just be known as, if you ever need it. I literally had a call with someone this morning who's an educator, right, who works with special needs kids. And he literally got in touch with me because it was like, oh, I see you're hiring people, volunteers to do A, B, and C, because we're doing a big drive because we're restocking an art department, for a new project that we're doing. And he was like, oh, you ever consider doing like work experience, for people that could just do a couple things here and there? And I'm like, absolutely. That's literally what Astrarium's built for, is that if people, school kids that are looking for a bit of work experience, we can set up a 3-week internship so that you can literally do 2-3 tasks, have a chat with everyone in the studio. And then you know what it's like to work in the industry. You know what it feels like to work in a studio. Not only does it build up your knowledge and your confidence so that you can see gaming as like a legitimate career in the future, but it also just opens up the door for roles that you wouldn't even know to think of. When I speak to a lot of volunteers, 80% gravitate straight towards game design because they see it as just, you're designing a game. It's the same as developing a game for a lot of people. And then that's when you start hearing about QA. That's when you start hearing about, what the artwork is that you're drawn towards. And then from the artwork, you can then go towards VFX, you can go towards sound design, you can go towards, level rapid prototyping. And there's so many jobs that you just wouldn't know about unless you were physically in a studio or digitally in a studio. And you see these people actively enacting these roles and actively working towards creating something. So it just refines your ability to understand how the industry works, and also just implants as well just keep playing it forwards, keep the kindness and the transparency and the openness, and just kind of inspire people to be that way as they go through their own careers in the future.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I've also said this too, of like, I like what you said, is it's not tech, it's not an app. It's a piece of art, and it's interesting too with games. It's like, it's so encompassing, and what you're just talking about, it encompasses almost every creative aspect. Music, from music to tactile arts to it encompasses all form of art. And then you have to add the business on top of it. And it's like, it's just crazy about this, the games in general, is it's just like, it encompasses so many elements together to try and, make something. And then like at the end of the day, you're making something that someone's not just going to look at, they're going to interact with it. So there's that aspect of it too, which is insane. It's so unique, but 100%, it is a piece of art. It's not an app that you can download and then monetize and then put a bunch of ads in front of somebody. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work that way. I think about some of my favorite games, and it's like those games have such a lasting impact on me because of the way that they were designed and developed, and the emotion that I had while playing the game, and then the story or whatever. And so it's like, you connect with people in a much different way than any other art form, because they get to interact with your art. Not only that, they get to see all of the different things. Like I said, you're making something visual for them, you're making something sound good for them, you're making so many things for that person to consume, that it's just, there's nothing like it. And it was interesting for like my own like personal journey, as like I've been in the business world for basically my whole life. And so like I made a massive pivot where I'm like, screw it, I'm done, I'm not doing that anymore, and I'm gonna make a game. Like I always had kind of dabbled or kind of teetered around the edges for a long time, and then finally some opportunities, not really opportunities, just I more or less, I just put my feet in the pool and just said, you know what, screw it, this is what I'm doing. I'm just gonna go all in, and hope for the best. And I'm crazy too. I'm like, I'll work till I die. Like, as far as like, I'll go insane and just get what I need to get done. But anywho, yeah, this has been a fun conversation.
This is fun.
We've been all over the place.
I really enjoyed this.
Yeah. If there's anything you want to talk about specifically, this would be a good time. Like I said, I edit stuff out, so if any of these pauses or whatever, digressions or whatever, I might cut. Most of the stuff I leave in, just because I like more of the free flowing, candid conversation.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, and that's kind of,
yeah, I would recommend the people kind of keep an eye on mini merchants. I'd love for people actually to just Google the studio and to follow us, because mini merchant is just like the first step for us, and we're going to be publishing a lot more stuff. And also, we just, again, the more people know about Astrarium, the more people who come and volunteer with us, come and create some great stuff with us, and just kind of experience the industry. Get your first step if you're a new graduate and you're looking to get some professional credit. If you're looking to create your own game, then we're in the middle of building packages to just make it easier and make sure that we're the ones filling in the cracks of the stuff that you might not be able to handle. And lastly, we even opened we even work with other studios. So if there's a studio out there that's literally like a group of 5 people working on the game, and they're feeling a bit stuck and a bit burnt out, then get in touch with us, and we can help bring you to the finish line if you help market your game and make sure that it gets launched. So we're all about not just providing opportunities for people. We're about being this service. We're being part of bringing indie gaming right back into the forefront and making sure that people are able to get from, A to Z and actually reach that achievement level. And they keep working with us in the future and just help us grow and help us keep helping other people. That's, as I say, the vision of Astrarium is that we're basically trying to get everybody into games. So
How is your marketing efforts go, by the way? How have things been going? What is uh the most successful form of marketing that has worked for you guys?
So, we have a good relationship with a mobile publisher called yOKzONa, who provide a lot of services, and they have networks of influencers that we use to promote the games and help sell game keys. Um, most of it has come from just direct market. Like I hang out on Reddit, on the indie gaming subreddits, and I respond to people and I say hi and I message saying, "Oh, looks good" on any of the games I particularly like, and um, just general networking. It's like a piece of advice to give to anybody is just spend like a couple of hours a day just networking, and sometimes you don't even have to be like a salesman. You literally just go say hi to random people until someone says hi back, you know? So we found that just the organic marketing is just what works because it's what's stickiest, and what makes someone have a genuine good experience when they come and find your game, which then makes them organically promote the game with other people as well. Um, this is with a previous game, but I worked with a clicker farm, who literally I paid them 30 quid to just do like 1,000 positive reviews on the game, and it did nothing. So it is literally like, unfortunately, it's just one of those things that's very intimidating for people, is that just like there's no cheap, quick fix for programming a game, there's no cheap, quick fix to making your game popular. It's just about treading the pavements. It's about meeting people one person at a time, making sure you get your game in front of them, and make a very good banner as well. That's the thing.
And make a really good
Make a
banner.
good banner art, make sure the front page of your game looks as good as possible so that, when people see a thumbnail, they want to click on it. But it's just one of those things you've got to just do it one person at a time. And if you try and take a shortcut like a clicker farm, or like paying someone to, post on all of their big established socials about your game, just doesn't work. You've got to do the work yourself. And that's why a lot of these studios that are successful are the ones that are like 20 years old, because and people are just so cynical these days that they will spot, a lack of authenticity a mile away. And it won't just be, and they won't just ignore you. They will come away with a negative experience, and they will tell other people about this negative experience. So you gotta make the effort, and there's no shortcuts.
No, not at all. It's all hard. I mean, marketing by far is like the hardest thing for sure, because it's like you're trying to, well, first of all, navigating where and what to do, and then also like how to do it. And then, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. I know that was one of our biggest issues early on was, at the beginning of the year, we tried to do, not the beginning of the year, I'm sorry, at the end of last year, we tried to do a play test and try to have people play the game. And we thought we would get a decent amount of people, or at least a handful, just to kind of start to get a little bit of traction to see what people thought of it. And we basically had like nobody play it. And we was like, shit, nobody knows who we are. Like like, okay, hang on a second, guys. We got to do some major work here. And basically we stuck our nose to the grindstone and just started hammering away. And, we're slowly seeing the fruits of that labor. Yeah, man, it really is. I tell people, marketing is a very spray and pray. You just gotta put what you can out there, put it out there, just let people see your journey as it goes. I like that. I like what you were talking about as far as with itch, on how some people are putting up the very basic concept and watching it transform on itch. And then when it's finally a final version, is then moving over to Steam. I think that's a really interesting and good way to do marketing. But yeah, man, people, my thought is, so as far as when it comes to like the business world, is people buy from people. So you got to put yourself out there and like let people know you're a real person that actually has a heart and cares about something, you know?
Yeah. And people are just so, people are cynical now. The internet has been around for long enough that someone will spot an AI. People spot AIR and people will spot inauthentic posts, and they'll spot
Mm,
the copy paste post.
hmm for sure. Well, shoot, man, this has been I've really enjoyed this conversation. This has been fun. I learned a lot actually, uh, as far as your company and just like what's out there. You know, because I would have never thought that something like this was out there that people can go and try and volunteer to try and get some sort of credit. Also, just work on projects in a different capacity than just throwing your resume out there or whatever, trying to get Fiverr, whatever the heck it is. This is a different approach to that world, and I think it's really unique and very interesting. So if you like, we can do a little bit of an outro. You can let people know where to find you, where to find your game, what they should be looking out for. Just kind of give everything and everything anyone would want to know about you, your company, and your games, and yeah, go from there.
Sure. So I said, my name is Vaughn Holloway. Hit me up on LinkedIn. That's where I'm the most, active. Just connect with me. I basically say hi to everybody. And Astrarium Games, come and visit us, have a look at Mini Merchant, especially look out for Mini Merchant on Switch, which hopefully by the time this video comes out, will be ready to go, or at least just a few weeks away from going. And yeah, just come and join us. I say we're an open door studio. We've got a ton of opportunities. And even if there's not something that kind of tickles your fancy straight away, chances are something else is going to pop up in a couple of days' time. So come join us, be part of our community. Feed your ambition, find a group of friendly people looking to do stuff. And, if you want to make your own game, then we're there for that too. So, we're welcome, basically, you're always welcome.
Sweet. Well, right on, man. It was great having you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. Thanks so much, mate.